4 more weeks till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 4 more weeks till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Hi, huge movie fanatic Nate coming at you in 2D in standard definition on YouTube for another fantastic, horrific, spooktacular fall 2014 season, Halloween October season horror movie review. This release is this particular title is kind of timely. I found this recently at Half Price Books for $2. I never had this on DVD. I got the VHS previously, viewed not long after it came out, back in maybe whenever. I don't know when I think it came out on video in 91, I think. So maybe I got it previously viewed, late 91 or 92 or something like that. But I owned this movie on VHS previously viewed from probably a mom and pop video store. And I saw it pretty much, having been obviously a fan of Hellraiser at the time of this particular movie's video release, I think we rented it pretty much right after it came out, which of course is Clive Barker's Nightbreed. So I got it, the DVD, I don't know if you can, there it is, for a whopping $2 at Half Price Books, and like I said, I'd never had the DVD. I'm like, oh cool, it's like October, horror movie season, and plus I want the DVD of this anyway. For $2, I'll take it. And I haven't seen this forever. I probably hadn't seen it since at least the mid-90s. And it should be noted that I don't know exactly when the release date is. Maybe it's out now, maybe it's coming out in October, I don't know. But Scream Factory is putting out an extended Blu-ray of Nightbreed, which, since I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, I don't think I'm going to be getting. But for you Nightbreed fans out there, you probably already know about it. But if you don't, Scream Factory is putting out as far as I know, an extended Blu-ray, an extended cut on Blu-ray. And also there's like a limited super special edition, which I think includes other stuff in addition to. I don't think the bare bone, or not the bare bones, but the lesser release has this original version. I think it might be only extended, and you have to buy the super version to get the original cut or something like that. I don't know. There's so many details. It's so confusing. You can't remember everything. So having rewatched Nightbreed, it was really, I don't know, it was just crazy. That's one of the things that I think is so cool about movies. Like, I can experience, you can be like, I don't know, however old I was, 14 or 15, and having rewatched this movie, like I say, I probably haven't seen since maybe the I would imagine I haven't seen it since the mid-90s, which is crazy. It's like, how long ago is that from now? That's like 20 years ago. So I may not have seen that movie for like 17, 18 years or something like that. So that's kind of crazy. But the crazy thing is, when you see a movie or when you're watching a movie when you're 14 or 15, and you watch it a couple times, and then you put it away, and you go back and revisit it, nearly 20 years later, it's like it teleports you right back to that age when you originally saw it. That's the weirdest thing in the entire world. It brought me right back to 91/92, and I was like, oh my stars, It's like as the movie unfolds, it's like, I'll get to the review in a sec. It's like, I don't know what's coming next, but I remember what just happened. And every moment is like that. Every scene, it's like, I don't know what's coming next, but I remember that scene. I don't know what's coming next, but I remember that. And it's weird. It's like, kind of like... So on to the movie review of Nightbreed. As I said, obviously at this time I was more or less kind of a whatever sort of a Clive Barker fan in a sense. I mean, I guess I kind of liked... At the time I liked Hellraiser, but I think at the time I liked Hellraiser 2 more, which of course he didn't direct, but whatever. And this is, I was going to research it, but there's so much to, I forgot. But as far as I know, don't quote me, I might be wrong. But as far as I know, this is the second of only 3 movies Clive Barker directed. And I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll probably put I'm wrong in red letters on this screen right now. But if I'm right, there'll be no red letters, and I'll be right again. But I think Nightbreed is the second of only 3 movies Clive Barker would direct. So that's kind of cool. At any rate, I think it's, if he did more, it's definitely the second movie he directed. And I remember when it started, I'm like, And it's like, of course, Danny Elfman, of course. This was a huge, the era, like 1990 is when the movie was kind of came out, I think, like theatrically or whatever. And obviously 1990, Danny Elfman was huge. I mean, I don't know how many scores he did in 1990. Edward Scissorhands, Dick Tracy, Nightbreed. I mean, how many scores did he do in 1990? I don't know. I have no idea. Darkman. He did like 4 scores in 1 year. How do you do that? At least 4. So Danny Elfman was huge at this point, and because Clive Barker was probably kind of, having come off a great success off of Hellraiser and having produced Hellraiser 2, obviously Clive Barker was in a position where he could get Danny Elfman, and that was, obviously I was a fan at the time of Danny Elfman, and that was a huge boon for Clive Barker, of course. And the opening scene of this movie, which is whatever this guy's main character is, Nightmare, which is kind of cool. Just like, which the music has been used in like trailers, and I remember, the where all these monsters are gallivanting towards this gate or whatever, and it's just like, and they got the guy with 2 faces, just like, and I remember when I was watching it, I wish I would have videotaped myself watching it, because I was like, oh man, it instantly brought back so many memories. And it seems like I'd seen that opening scene just a billion times. I think when I was a teenager, I used to watch movies over and over and over and over like no one's business. So, I mean, I was just like, first of all, that music has been, I think, used in trailers since, and the opening was really memorable. And what's the character's name? Let me briefly look and see what the character's name is. So, Boone is the character's name. So that, the movie opens with the, Boone, bad dream, and whatever. And his girlfriend's kind of cute. I remember thinking that at the time, and even now, kind of cute. Let me just say that I'm not a big fan of Clive Barker, although there's aspects of Hellraiser I like. I mean, it's not really my style. Like in general, like his whole style in general, like the monsters and just the creepy monsters with all the different monsters and the different faces and the snake guy, the snakes come out of his stomach, and I'm really not like a monster enthusiast in the sense of like, oh cool, this porcupine woman's cool, look at the production design. I don't really care about like monsters, so I don't really care about like necessarily the monsters in this movie, although the one guy, that I kind of like, which really isn't a monster, is that one guy at the beginning of the movie slices off his whatever, his skin, his scalp off his, basically everything but his face off his head. That's a cool idea. Like just as a character, and he goes around the rest of the movie just with his face on his head. That's probably one of my favorite characters in terms of just, in terms of just makeup design. I mean, like all these other people are just like Star Trek aliens and shit, like this guy with the moon head and stuff. I mean, I don't really care about any of these other people. Before I forget, like this one woman on the ground, I don't even remember her in the movie. Like these 2 people squatting, this woman sitting on her ass and this guy squatting. I mean, I don't even remember them at all. But anyway, my favorite thing about the movie Nightbreed is David Cronenberg's character, and also his whatever other character. And I'm pretty sure David Cronenberg plays Decker. And that's my favorite thing about the movie Nightbreed. Even from the very first time I ever saw this movie was just David Cronenberg. I had known at the time, I knew that he was a director and he did Scanners and stuff. But I was like, wow, usually directors don't star in other people's movies as an actor. And I was like, wow, he's not only kind of a cool director, but I think David Cronenberg steals this movie. And he's like a really, with that voice of his, is a really creepy actor. And before I forget to mention, not that I could forget, I mean, the coolest thing about his character with the mask on, Decker, and when he's killing people, is that freaking mask. I'm a fan of this serial. I'm a fan of old-time, serials from the 40s and 50s and stuff, cliffhanger serials. And there's this one called, I think it's the one with this character. It's called The Mysterious Dr. Satan. And it's like one of these Republic Pictures cliffhanger serials from the 40s, I think. And the hero of that particular serial is called the Copperhead. And it's really cool because ever since I saw it, which is probably around the time I saw this movie, I thought that it was the coolest look in the world to have a guy in a suit. And the Copperhead wears this like mask that's kind of like, I can't remember exactly how it is. If you can see his mouth, maybe his mouth you can see too, but it's like this shroud or whatever, you know, like this copper mask or whatever with eye holes and stuff. And when I saw Mission Impossible in '96 and they put that shroud over Tom Cruise, it was the same thing. It was like he was in a suit and all whatever, and he had this thing over his, and reminded me of Copperhead and also, you know, Cronenberg's character from Nightbreed. I think that look is so cool, not only just having the guy in a suit with that weird mask, but that mask design was the coolest damn mask design in the world, with just those like button eyes or whatever in the mouth that was like would zip and would be like. Rrr. So for me, this movie's about all kinds of like creatures of the night and all this shit. But for me, like the most coolest character in the movie is a human, who just wears a mask. I just love that look, like that suit with this goofy ass mask on, And Cronenberg's character is the coolest because having been, a trouble student and a trouble kid and stuff like that. I seen a couple of stupid psychiatrists when I was a kid, because I was a horrible student. I'm not, I don't do what I'm told to do. I do what I want to do. So I didn't do schoolwork. So they're like, what's wrong with this kid? He doesn't do schoolwork. He's crazy. We got to take him to a shrink. And when in actuality, I'm healthy. I didn't want to do schoolwork. But anyway, so I had some experience with these shrinks, and they're just the stupidest people in the world. And one thing I like about, Cronenberg's character, Clive Barker having written this character is, you got this maniacal person who's just basically wants to kill fat people and slobs and just all these like quote unquote deformities and just ugly people and whatever. And he happens to be, his day job is a shrink, which is kind of cool, because I think it might have been, if it wasn't, it sure comes across like a little jab at the mental health profession or whatever, which I think is a bunch of bullshit. I mean, there's things to be had of value in there, but I mean, as a whole, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus bullshit, kind of mumbo jumbo crap. So I do think it was interesting, like this most psychotic person in this movie's day job was a psychiatrist, because I think it's not only poignant but it's probably very realistic. I mean, after you go see your shrink, I mean, you go home and just do whatever, have dinner, and they probably go off and don a mask and fucking kill all kinds of fat people. So David Cronenberg, to make a long story short, is my favorite. Decker is my favorite character in this movie, and I remember really loving him, but I didn't remember how much of him there was in the movie. Like, it seems like there's a lot more, and luckily a lot more of him in the movie, like just doing his evil deeds and stuff. So I was grateful, having re-seen it, to see that. When I was watching the movie, it was basically, as the movie was progressing from the beginning into the middle, it was 2.5 stars. But by the time the end, I have to tell you, the movie kind of trudges along, and like I say, the whole thing up until the end is like 2.5 stars. But once that end started, and it kept going and kept going and kept going, and was like, for some stupid reason, these humans are going to go, fight these Nightbreed people at night, but maybe they don't know that that's a bad time to go fight the Nightbreed people. I don't know, whatever. But it's really cool towards the end when it's like dusk and stuff, and it's like the humans are going with that sheriff, who I remember being really a well-cast actor to play that part, the guy who plays the sheriff or whatever. And the end is just so, even by today's standard, it's so like just, I don't know, I mean, it's just so like, wow. Like just freaking good old analog, just non-digital action, where it was all just like, I mean, there was matte paintings and stuff in there, but I mean, it's just like all happening, and it's makeup effects, and it was just so like conceived so coolly, like the end and the end battle and everything that happened at the end, that it seems like movies now, like, I don't know, I don't know why the end was so impactful for me when I rewatched it. Maybe because the rest of it isn't necessarily that great, but I was really taken by how fantastic the end was. So we're going to go 3 stars at the end of the day for Nightbreed, because of just overall fantastic, kind of cool ideas, and just like this character discovering stuff along the way, and obviously you discovering along with him the same stuff. And like I say, for me, David Cronenberg just steals the show, and his, I wish you know, they just do he would have just done a separate spin-off movie just with that character. Obviously at the end when he's like, you know, obviously he came back alive, and I'm sure at the time they were, you know, obviously, you know, setting up Nightbreed 2 or whatever, but I don't think this movie did perform particularly well. But I think, of course, as so many other movies, it's one of these movies over the years that garnered like a cult following, and deservedly so. I think there's so many more things that are so much more popular, like like Blair Witch Project was. Oh my God, that didn't deserve it, you know. And Nightbreed's got a lot of creativity in there, and the music's fantastic, and the, you know, the monsters are kind of cool. And what I like about the monsters is they kind of, see, you know, a lot of people might be bummed out or pissed off about this, but I kind of like how they pretty much saved them all for the end, to just, you know, to come out with their, you know, little tricks or whatever, and the snakes come out of his stomach and twirl around his head, go what, you know. They save them for the end so they can, it's like a payoff thing. So that was kind of cool. So 3 stars for Nightbreed. Like I say, it might be Clive Barker's second of only 3 movies he's directed. And then the next one being, I think, Lord of Illusions, which, you know, I mean, I have and stuff, but I don't think I'm going to review it. I don't think it's particularly that great. It's very similar feeling to Nightbreed in a lot of ways. So, I guess that pretty much does it. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you on the next video.